Starting today, Stampin' Up! Has a special release that you won't find in any of our catalogs. It's called Waves of the Ocean, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's a sneak peek early release from our next annual catalog, which is coming soon. But today I want to share quite a few card examples that I've made up using this bundle. It is gorgeous. I've thrown in quite a few different techniques, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Let's take a look. I'll quickly show you the products we're going to be using, and then I want to jump into the card projects that I've created. So what we have here, we have the Waves of the Ocean designer paper. It is so pretty. You'll see lots of examples of this on my cards. We have blue foils cardstock, which I totally forgot to use on my samples. I'm really bummed. It got covered up and I forgot it even existed. But really pretty foil paper that goes with it. The Waves of Inspiration stamp set, Waves dies, and then some really beautiful rhinestones that coordinate. So let's start looking at my card samples, and towards the end I'm going to show you a technique for how to use the stamp set in a way that you might not realize you were able to, that I think is really neat. I think you'll enjoy seeing it, so stick around for that. So let's start looking at these samples. Looks like I have 9, and then I'll be showing you a technique as well at the end. So here I have created, I'm going to call this kind of like a classic example of how to use these products. I have that beautiful designer paper in the background. I cut out the 2 Waves dies. I cut them out. I layered the white one on top. Pacific Point is underneath. I think that is so neat. I just love that. And then the pelican over here with some of those rhinestones and tied a little twine on. So that is a really fun example. One of the things I love about these products is they're good for men. I really like to point that out when I am using products and making cards that are good for men, because I really like to spend my time with flowers, but these are just beautiful. So, you know, we don't want to send flowery cards to men usually, so these are really nice options for men. Here, okay, so this one has a little bit of detail, takes a little bit of time with the die cutting and the layering. I wanted to show a really simple example. So on this one, all I did was tear that designer paper by hand. I have 3 layers of it here. I stuck that one with different colors in the center to give it a little variation, but I can show you right now how I tore that paper to look like waves. It's pretty simple. I tear down and back up. That's a little bit more of a wave than I did on my card, but that's all you do. Just tear it a little bit, create a few strips, and then you can layer it. But I thought that turned out really neat, and it's very simple. Next, I have one that I did a fun technique on, and I love how this turned out. So I thought, can you see that the waves are shining? I thought, well, I want to make that actually look like water. So what I did with this is there are 2 different ways to emboss in any color you want to. And I'll show you the one. I'm not actually going to show the whole thing, but I'll give you an idea here. So what I did on this, I lined up my paper where I wanted it, used my magnet. I stamped once with Pacific Point ink, let it dry, and then without moving anything, I inked my stamp with Versamark ink, stamped a second time. I did Versamark twice just to make sure it was good and inked. So after I had done that, then I used clear embossing powder, heat set it with my heat tool, and that is how I got this look, which I think is really neat. I'm really happy with how that one turned out. If you're watching and you're not sure about any of the techniques I'm talking about, there will be a link in the video description below. You can click on and go to my website, and I'll have links to some of these techniques other places on my site and in other videos that may help you learn how to do a few of the things that I'm talking about. Next, we're calling this my mistake card, but I really like how it turned out. So I'll try and explain what I was trying to do, and then I'll explain what actually happened. So what I was planning on doing was cutting the wave out of this piece of cardstock. I had designer paper layered on top of the cardstock behind it. And I didn't really remember when I was doing this that I needed to be careful about where I put my adhesive. So I die cut this out, and then when I tried to pull these pieces out, it wouldn't come out because of the adhesive that's down there. So the way it turns out, I'm like, That's really cool. I like that it's not going anywhere because of that adhesive that I had already put back in there. So if you want to create this look, what you need to do is layer your designer paper on top of some white cardstock. Keep your adhesive in this region. I put one strip up here and I put one strip down here. Then to attach them together, then I did the die cutting. So if you keep your adhesive down here where it's going to hold these pieces in place at the bottom, you can recreate this too, and then put it on top of some Coastal Cabana cardstock for your card base. So what I was trying to do, I didn't finish that story, was die cut this out. I wanted this whole wave to come out. I wanted it to go all the way through to, so the whole front of the card was cut through. And then I was going to put a piece of window sheet in and put this wave piece, this main skinny wave piece, back on. So it would be a wave with a see-through die cut to the inside of the card. So it didn't work out as planned. I got so excited with my craft. I could use these products all day, and I could have if I let myself, but I wanted to get these cards shared with you. So next, I wanted to show you, I have a couple of simple ways to use these products here, and actually some alternatives. So if you're looking at this and you're like, wow, that's really pretty, but you know, how else can you use it? What can you do besides waves? Here are a couple of things you can do besides waves. So here is one. I use that big wave stamp, and I'll show that to you again so you can see it. You can see it down here on this card, but there you can see the actual stamp. So I used it in the background to create this texture. I really like texture stamps, and I really like stamps I can use to cover a background. And so I turned it all different directions and covered this several times and created that really neat texture. I think this would be a really nice masculine card that was very simple to put together. Now, I'm showing you lots of blue examples with that designer paper, all those beautiful blues, but I wanted to show you there are those other colors in this designer paper, the the Calypso Coral and some yellows. And so I thought I would show you this, that there are some other colors mixed in there. Now, these products coordinate with some other products that we have, and I couldn't resist mixing in a few other products that we have to show how you can extend these products if you want to. So I have the Let's Set Sail stamp set, seashells embossing folder. Here is that Friends Are Like Seashells stamp set. I actually didn't use this one, but I pulled it out. I thought I might. And then this is the Seascape bundle and the coordinating dies that go with it. They are called Sea Life dies. So I have some fun examples here. I really like how these turned out. So on this one, I used that seashells embossing folder, embossed this piece right here. It was one piece, and then I tore it into several. So I used my blending brushes over the top to add a little bit darker color on top and layered that on top of that designer paper. Thought that turned out really pretty, and it's pretty simple to create as well. Here's one with that Let's Set Sail bundle, the stamps and also the coordinating punch that I did not show you, but this was pretty simple to create. You can actually look forward to a video I'll be releasing here in a week or two showing how to make quite a few of these, this same design in a short amount of time. One of my mass production, how do you make a lot of cards in a short amount of time videos with tons of tips. I'll be sharing this card design right here. So that's a fun one with a piece of that designer paper in the background. And then those Sea Life dies that I told you about, let me bring them back in because these are so neat. I made 2 cards with, they both are shaker cards, and I think they both turned out really unique. So I'll show you the little teeny one first. And this one, I actually mixed in our Gumball Machine products. Gumball Machine die set, Gumball Machine shaker domes, and the little beads that go with that set as well. But isn't this cute? I've been wanting to make a fishbowl out of the Gumball Machine shaker domes, and this was the perfect chance. I used some of that designer paper in the background and created this cute little shaker card. And this one, I just love it. I think it's so pretty. So this is a shaker card, and I just covered my card base with a big piece of that designer paper, added that amazing goldfish. I cut it out with our rainbow glimmer paper for some color variation and some glimmer. And then I created this frame, added that window sheet on the top, and put some sequins in there. So really a lot of ways you can use this bundle. Now let me show you that technique that I wanted to show with how to use the stamps in the set that you might not realize you could do. So I want to show how you can layer the wave stamps in a way that they're not going to look awkward. And I had an example to show you, and now I don't see it right here, but I'll stamp it right here on the back. So I was thinking, wow, that'd be really cool if you could layer these waves and have like a scene of rolling waves. So I tried it, and what I discovered was, I'll show you what happens. So I'll just move around this background a little bit to show. So you stamp once, and I didn't press hard enough, as you can see, but let's show you again. We'll move it down a little bit. And what you see is you get these awkward corners from the edge of the stamp. So I figured out how you can create this look without the awkward corners, and that's what I want to show you here. So I'll clean off my stamp with my chamois. Chamois is really handy for cleaning off your stamps, especially when they're on your Stamparatus. Now I'll bring in a piece of cardstock, and I need my paper back in the background because I will be stamping off the edge. So I'll plan my stamping out here a little bit. I will stamp my first one up here in the top right of this piece of white cardstock. And I'm going to use several colors of ink. I'm going to go from dark to light. So I'm sorry, from light to dark. So this is balmy blue right here. What I'm going to do, I have a sponge dauber, and I'm going to pick up some of the ink on that ink pad, and then I'm going to apply it to the stamp. So up here on the rounded part of the wave, the top part of the wave, I can apply as much ink as I want, but as I get down here, over here to the side and down to the bottom, I want to fade it out so that it just sort of blends out into nothing. So lots of ink up at the top, fade it out as we move back towards the back, and there you can see it just sort of fades. Now I did get a little bit of an edge right there, but it's not too bad, not too bad. Now I'm going to shift this, and I am playing around with this live right now while you're watching. I'm going to stamp a second time here without re-inking. See if I can get a really nice light faded. So that's faded there. It's not quite as defined as I would have liked. So I am going to apply a light layer of ink on here, similar to what I did last time, just a little bit less up at the top. Fade it out over here. I'm going to make sure the edges are cleaned off here, that ink from the first time is all off. And let's try that. So there you can see that faded look. I really like that. And I'm debating whether to bring in my second color of ink. I was going to use some mint macaron here, but I think I'm going to stick with this balmy blue. I really like how this is looking. So I'll shift this to where I want it. I don't want it to be exactly level with that last one. Let's go with right here. We'll do this again, and then I'm going to bring in some darker ink. I'm going to use some Pacific Point, and we'll see what we can do with that. So this just shows you there's so many ways to use these products. like I said, I just wanted to come up with some neat ideas to share with you. And when I tried layering this at first, of course, it wasn't working, but I figured out how to make it work. So what I'm doing right now, I need to blot some of this color off over here where I'm trying to get it to fade, but I think I had too much ink on my dauber. So I just got the extra off, and that should help that to blend. Okay, I love how that looks. Now, we'll bring in some Pacific Point. I'll grab my other dauber, my Pacific Point dauber, and let's get this lined up. I think I'll do 2 of these waves in the front. I think I'll do 1 maybe about here. We'll do this one first. Now with this darker ink, I'm going to have to be really careful to make sure I get that faded out and blended before I get to the edge. Now this should be going off the edge of the card and the bottom of the card, so it's not as important except for over here by this edge. Very nice. And we'll see if we can finish this with 1 more. Okay, I like that right there. And this one, I think I want to be a little bit darker. So I need to still do the fading off at the edges like I've been doing, but I'm thinking I may actually stamp it twice to get a little bit darker wave on this one. You don't get your ink quite as dark with these daubers, so you can stamp several times if you want to, if you're using your stamping platform. There's so many benefits to using the Stamparatus, and this is one of them. If I want my ink darker, I can just stamp again in the same spot, and I do this quite a lot actually. Very nice. We'll do 1 more at the bottom just to cover that up, but here you can see how to use this wave stamp and create a scene of waves. So thanks so much for watching along today. You can find links to the products I've been talking about in the video description below. You can also find that link to my website with information on some of these techniques and some of the other cards I've created. So I really appreciate you being here. I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.